A 51-year-old Cipher was decoded, but the killer still vanished. For decades, that sentence sat at the center of one of the most famous unsolved cases in American crime. In the dark, the 340-character cipher looked like a sealed door, lines of symbols, fragments, and patterns that resisted every serious attempt to open them. Then, in December 2020, an international team of codebreakers finally read it. The breakthrough was real. The message was recovered. And yet, the central fact did not change. The Zodiac Killer remained unidentified. That contradiction is what makes this case so difficult to leave behind. A message mailed to the San Francisco Chronicle in November 1969 survived more than half a century before yielding its secrets. But the decoded text did not give investigators the one thing the public had wanted from the beginning: a name. No verified identity emerged from the solution. No confirmed confession closed the file. The cipher was solved, but the person behind it was still unknown. So this is not a suspect expose. It is a cold case review of an unidentified serial killer who used letters, cryptograms, and threats to draw newspapers, police, and the public into his orbit. The message was meant to be seen. The deeper question is whether it was ever meant to be understood in a way that could solve the case. The person called the Zodiac was not identified at the time, and he has never been conclusively named since. What is known comes from the confirmed violence and the communications that followed it. The confirmed crimes took place across Northern California, including Benicia, Vallejo, unincorporated Napa County, and San Francisco. Between December 1968 and October 1969, the Zodiac Killer murdered at least 5 people. 2 of 7 known victims survived. The attacks involved 3 couples and a cab driver. That pattern, combined with the letters sent afterward, turned a local series of investigations into a national obsession. The case became famous not only because of the killings, but because of the messages. Newspapers received threats. Cryptograms arrived in the mail. A killer who remained physically out of reach managed to stay present in the public mind through words alone. And that is the central tension at the heart of the Zodiac story. How much of the case is built on confirmed violence? And how much on the terrifying control an unidentified offender could exert simply by writing? The first confirmed attack came on December 20th, 1968, in Benicia, California. Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were shot and killed. More than 6 months later, on July 4th, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were shot in Vallejo. Ferrin died, and Mageau survived. Then, on September 27th, 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were attacked at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. Shepard died. Hartnell survived. Finally, on October 11, 1969, Paul Stein, a cab driver, was shot and killed in San Francisco. That sequence matters because it shows a case accelerating across multiple locations in less than a year. Each attack added pressure, fear, and uncertainty. Investigators were trying to understand whether the incidents were connected, what the offender wanted, and whether another attack would follow. Before the public had any clear answer, the Zodiac mailed a card containing the 340-character cipher to the San Francisco Chronicle on November 8, 1969. By then, 4 confirmed attacks had already unfolded, and the city, the newspapers, and law enforcement were still trying to understand what they were dealing with. That raises the question that still lingers today. By the time the 340-character cipher arrived, was it evidence, a threat, a confession, a performance, or a deliberate trap? What made the cipher so enduring was not only its length, but its place in the story. It was one more communication from an offender who had already shown a willingness to provoke. For 51 years, no one could read it with confidence. When it was finally deciphered in 2020, the result did not resolve the case. It did not identify the killer. It did not confirm a final motive. It did not turn the long search into a conclusion. Instead, it left behind a sharper version of the same mystery. A message once unreadable became readable. The killer remained unknown. And the case that had already combined murder, fear, and public taunting gained one more contradiction. The answer to the cipher did not become the answer to the crime. From there, the story turns to the evidence, the communications, and the moments that made the Zodiac case so resistant to closure. The timeline is clear enough to trace. The identity is not. And the solved cipher may have opened the text, but it did not open the case. The trail did not begin with a name. It began with paper, symbols, and a pattern of communication that turned the Zodiac investigation into something larger than a standard homicide case. The letters mailed to Bay Area newspapers were not just taunts. They became part of the evidence themselves. According to verified research, the Zodiac sent correspondence to newspapers taking credit for murders, and some of those letters reportedly included details known only to police. That detail mattered because it suggested the writer had access to information that had not yet been made public. But it did not solve the case. It only deepened the suspicion that someone was watching the investigation from inside the shadows. The letters also carried threats. The Zodiac warned of bombings and more murders if newspapers did not print his messages. That pressure helped force the communications into public view, where they became part of the historical record and part of the fear surrounding the case. But even here, the record has to be handled carefully. A threat in a letter is not proof of an unconfirmed crime. It is evidence of a threat. Nothing more can be added without crossing from fact into speculation. What made these mailings so enduring was not only their tone, but their structure. The Zodiac included cryptograms with his correspondence. 4 cryptograms are associated with the case in the research record. 2 were decrypted, one in 1969 and one in 2020, while the other 2 remain unsolved. That distinction is important. It means the case is not one single code waiting to be opened. It is a collection of communications, some understood, some still resistant, and each one carrying its own unanswered question. The most famous of those messages is the 340-character cipher mailed to the San Francisco Chronicle on November 8, 1969. For more than half a century, that cipher sat at the center of the case like a locked archive. Investigators, researchers, and codebreakers knew it existed. They knew it mattered. They just could not read it with confidence. Then in December 2020, an international team deciphered it. David Oranchak, Sam Blake, and Jarl van Eyck. Their breakthrough was significant, but the solution did not produce a name. It did not end the investigation. It did not tell the public who the Zodiac Killer was. So the question changed. It was no longer only, can this be solved? It became, what did people expect it would finally reveal? A confession? A clue to identity? A motive? Over decades, the expectation around the cipher had grown larger than the document itself. The public imagined that somewhere inside those 340 characters, there might be a key. But when the text was recovered, it did not unlock the person behind it. The message was solved. The case was not. That distinction is where the legal story matters most. The Zodiac Killer case remains unsolved, and the killer's identity is still unknown. That is the clearest legal status supported by the record. Many theories have been proposed over the years regarding the Zodiac's true identity, but none have been confirmed. In a case this public, speculation has often traveled farther than proof. The Cipher solution did not change that. It did not produce a verified suspect. It did not close the file. It clarified one message in a much larger mystery. Arthur Lee Allen is the only suspect police named, according to the research. He was a former elementary school teacher and a convicted sex offender, and he died in 1992. That is the background that can be stated with caution. It is also where restraint matters. Being named as a suspect by police is not the same as a legal finding of guilt. The research does not support turning that name into a conclusion, and the 2020 decryption did not identify him as the killer. That point is essential because the Zodiac case has attracted theories for decades. Some theories focus on known suspects. Others point to names that have never been confirmed. But an unsolved case cannot be closed by public fascination, pattern matching, or repetition. A theory is not a conviction. A resemblance is not proof. An allegation is not an answer. The public record does not fully explain who the Zodiac was, and unanswered questions do not prove any one person was responsible. So what changed legally when the 340-character cipher was solved? Almost nothing about the central question. The message became readable. The identity did not. The case still rests in the same place it occupied before the breakthrough. A historically important, unsolved homicide investigation with a public trail of letters, cryptograms, and unresolved claims. If the most famous cipher breakthrough in the case did not identify the killer, then the evidence still missing is the kind that can survive scrutiny, not just fascination. And that leads back to the most difficult part of the timeline. The cipher was mailed in 1969 and decoded in 2020, a gap of 51 years. The final letter in the research record was received by the San Francisco Chronicle in 1974. In that letter, the Zodiac claimed to have killed 37 people. That claim is part of the record, but it is not confirmed. The verified number in the research remains at least 5 murders. Between those 2 points, there is a long stretch of uncertainty, and the public record does not fully explain what happened in the intervening years, or whether other victims exist beyond the confirmed 5. That missing middle is one reason the case remains so powerful. What was the Zodiac doing between the last confirmed murder in 1969 and the final letter in 1974? Did communications continue in ways that were never verified? Were there additional victims who never became part of the confirmed timeline? Or did the legend grow larger than the evidence? The research does not answer those questions, and because it does not answer them, a responsible account has to leave them unresolved. What the record does confirm is unsettling in a different way. A cipher that stayed unread for 51 years was finally deciphered, and yet the breakthrough still left the person behind it unidentified. The message was opened. The mystery remained sealed. That is the contradiction at the heart of the case. A solved code without a solved killer, a recovered text without a verified identity, and a final clue that still does not close the distance between what was written and who wrote it. In the end, the 340-character cipher became exactly what the Zodiac case has always resisted, turning into a conclusion, an answer that did not become an identification. The The question now is not only what the cipher said, but why the most famous message in the case still could not bridge the gap between a decoded text and an unknown killer. Was it ever meant to identify anyone at all? Or was it only ever meant to keep the case moving, one more step away from certainty? Follow Whispered Cases for a new case every week. Subscribe so you never miss one.